Question. In a normal turn, lean your option number 1. Body more than your motorcycle. Option number 2. Motorcycle more than your body. Option number 3. Motorcycle and your body at the same angle. The answer is option number 3. Motorcycle and your body at the same angle. Note: in normal turns, the rider and the motorcycle should lean together at the same angle. In slow tight turns, the rider should keep his or her body straight and only lean the motorcycle. Question. You are preparing to move to the left lane as pictured below. To spot vehicles passing beside you, it is best to: option number 1. Turn your head to the left. Option number 2. Look in the left mirror. Option number 3. Slow and look in the left mirror. The answer is option number 1. Turn your head to the left. Note: before you change lanes, make sure no one is about to pass you. Check the mirror and turn your head to check over your shoulder on the side of the lane you want to move into. Question. On a wet road, it will usually be more slippery. Option number 1. In the left wheel track. Option number 2. On loose gravel. Option number 3. In the center portion of the lane. The answer is option number 3. In the center portion of the lane. Note: the center portion of the lane is where most oil, antifreeze and other vehicle fluids collect. When it rains, these contaminants react with water to create slippery surface on road and causes hydroplaning. Position yourself on either side of the center strip. Question. If your throttle stucks, option number 1. Squeeze the clutch and use the engine cutoff switch. Option number 2. Shift to neutral and apply both brakes. Option number 3. Downshift and apply both brakes. The answer is option number 1. Squeeze the clutch and use the engine cutoff switch. Note: twist the throttle back and forth several times. If the throttle cable is stuck, this may free it. If the throttle stays stuck, immediately operate the engine cutoff switch and pull in the clutch at the same time. This will remove power from the rear wheel, though engine noise may not immediately decline. Question. To ride over an object on the road. Option number 1. Stay seated until you have crossed the object. Option number 2. Rise slightly off the seat. Option number 3. Edge across the object. The answer is option number 2. Rise slightly off the seat. Note: if you have to ride over the obstacle, you should rise slightly off the seat with your weight on the footrest to absorb the shock with your knees and elbows and avoid being thrown off the motorcycle. Question. In the picture below, the car is waiting to enter the intersection. Usually, it is best for you to: option number 1. Slow and maintain the center lane position. Option number 2. Slow and increase space. Option number 3. Speed up and move left to get through the intersection quickly. The answer is option number 2. Slow and increase space. Note: reduce your speed as you approach an intersection. After entering the intersection, move away. Increase space from vehicles preparing to turn. Do not change speed or position radically. The driver might think you are preparing to turn. Question. The single most important thing you can do to improve your chances of surviving a collision is to: option number 1. Wear a securely fastened helmet. Option number 2. Be familiar with the motorcycle. Option number 3. Ride in the center portion of the lane. The answer is option number 1. Wear a securely fastened helmet. Note: whichever style you choose, you get the most protection by making sure the helmet meets US DOT safety standards. The helmet is securely fastened on your head when you ride. Otherwise, if you are involved in a collision, it may come off your head before it gets a chance to protect you. Question: you are being pursued by a police vehicle with its lights and siren activated. You have deliberately ignored the officer's warning to stop and have speed away. During the pursuit, a person is killed. You are subject to option number 1, a fine of not less than $10,000. Option number 2, imprisonment in a state prison for 6 years. Option number 3, being jailed in the country jail for not more than 1 year. The answer is option number 2, imprisonment in a state prison for 6 years. Note: any person who willfully flees or attempts to evade a peace officer is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment in a country jail for not more than 1 year. If a person is convicted of killing anyone during the course of a police pursuit, he or she is subject to imprisonment in a state prison for 4, 6 or 10 years. Question: if you must stop quickly while turning and you are unable to straighten the motorcycle, apply the option number 1, front brake and increase your lean angle. Option number 2, brakes harder as the lean is reduced. Option number 3, brakes first and then lean away from the turn. The answer is option number 2, brakes harder as the lean is reduced. Note: if you must stop quickly while turning or riding a curve, the best technique is to straighten the motorcycle first and then brake. However, it may not always be possible to straighten the motorcycle and then stop. If you must brake while leaning, apply the brakes lightly and reduce the throttle. As you slow, reduce your lean angle and apply more brake pressure until the motorcycle is straight and maximum brake pressure is possible. Question: of the following, which one gives the most eye and face protection while riding? Option number 1, a windshield. Option number 2, goggles. Option number 3, a face shield. The answer is option number 3, a face shield. Note: a plastic shattered resistant face shield can help protect your whole face in a collision. Face shields, when lowered and locked in, offer protection to eyes from wind, dust, dirt, rain, insects, pebbles, and other debris. Question: to cross tracks that run parallel to your course? Option number 1, edge gradually across. Option number 2, move away, then turn and cross at an angle of at least 45 degrees. Option number 3, move into the opposite lane to cross at a 90-degree angle. The answer is option number 2, move away, then turn and cross at an angle of at least 45 degrees. Note: for tracks that run parallel to your course, move far enough away from tracks that turn and cross at an angle of at least 45 degrees. Edging across could catch your tires and throw you off balance. Question: to ride over metal bridge gratings as pictured below? Option number 1, ride straight across. Option number 2, cross at a sharp angle without changing lanes. Option number 3, weave zigzag across. The answer is option number 1, ride straight across. Note: riding over bridge gratings may cause your motorcycle to wave. This uneasy wandering feeling is generally not hazardous. Relax and maintain a steady speed and ride straight across. Question: When you are being followed too closely, it is usually best to option number 1. Move closer to the vehicle ahead. Option number 2. Move to the right portion of the lane. Option number 3. Drop back further from the vehicle ahead. The answer is option number 3. Drop back further from the vehicle ahead. Note: a better way to handle tailgaters is to allow them to pass you. If you cannot do this, slow down and open up extra space ahead of you. This will allow space for both you and the tailgater to stop if required. This will also encourage the tailgater to pass. Question: what is better when following a vehicle at night? Option number 1. Increase your following distance and use your low beam. Option number 2. Drop far back and use your high beam. Option number 3. Use the headlights of the vehicle ahead. The answer is option number 3. Use the headlights of the vehicle ahead. Note: at night it is harder for you to see and be seen. To make up for this, you should use the headlights of the vehicle ahead, which can give you a better view of the road than your high beam. Taillights bouncing up and down can alert you to bumps or rough pavement. Question: in the picture below, it is usually best to ride in which position? Option number 1. Position 1. Option number 2. Position 2 or 3. Option number 3. Position 3. The answer is option number 2. Position 2 or 3. Note: ride in paths 2 or 3 if vehicles are on your left side. If vehicles are on both sides of you, the center of the lane, path 2, is usually the best option. Riding closer to the center portion of your lane helps to keep other vehicles from sharing the lane. Question: the ability to think clearly and ride safely is affected by as little as option number 1. 6 drinks. Option number 2. 3 drinks. Option number 3. 1 drink. The answer is option number 3. 1 drink. Question: a group of riders move from a staggered formation into a single file when option number 1. Traffic is heavy. Option number 2. Turning corners. Option number 3. Riding at night. The answer is option number 2. Turning corners. Note: riders move from staggered formation into a single file formation when riding curves, turning and entering or leaving a highway. Question: if you have a flat tire while riding, hold the handle grips firmly and option number 1. Use the brake of the good tire or avoid braking. Option number 2. Gently apply both brakes. Option number 3. Use only the brake that controls the flat tire. The answer is option number 1. Use the brake of the good tire or avoid braking. Note: if either tire goes flat while riding, hold the handle grips firmly, ease off the throttle and keep a straight course. If braking is required, gradually apply the brake of the tire that is not flat if you are sure which one it is. When the motorcycle slows, ride to the side of the road, squeeze the clutch and stop. Question: with a properly adjusted mirror you can see option number 1. The lane beside you. Option number 2. Everything behind and to the side of you. Option number 3. Part of the lane beside you and behind you. The answer is option number 3. Part of the lane beside you and behind you. Note: adjust the mirrors so you can see the lane behind you and as much as possible of the lane next to you. Question: when carrying loads, option number 1. Fasten the load against the frame of the back of the seat. Option number 2. Keep the load low and as far forward as possible. Option number 3. Keep the load behind the rear axle. The answer is option number 2. Keep the load low and as far forward as possible. Note: most motorcycles are not designed to carry much cargo. Small loads can be carried safely if the load is kept in low position and fastened properly by placing the load over or in front of the rear axle. Mounting a load behind the rear axle affects how the motorcycle turns and brakes. Question: on a paved two-lane road, sand and gravels are most likely to collect. Option number 1. Near the center of the road. Option number 2. Near the sides of the road. Option number 3. In the left wheel track. The answer is option number 2. Near the sides of the road. Note: be cautious of the edge of the road. Dirt and gravel collect along the sides of the road, especially on curbs and ramps leading to and from highways. Question: when swerving, it is important to. Option number 1. Always brake before swerving. Option number 2. Swerve in the direction the hazard is traveling. Option number 3. Separate braking from swerving. The answer is option number 3. Separate braking from swerving. Note: swerving means turning quickly. A swerve is any sudden change in direction. It can be two quick turns or a rapid shift to the side. If braking is required, separate it from swerving. Brake before or after, never while swerving. Question: when carrying a passenger. Option number 1. Your motorcycle will react the same. Option number 2. It takes longer to brake and accelerate. Option number 3. Let some air out of the tires for better traction. The answer is option number 2. It takes longer to brake and accelerate. Note: your motorcycle will respond more slowly with a passenger. The heavier your passenger, the longer it will take to slow down, stop and accelerate. Question: when following a vehicle, you should try to. Option number 1. Ride in the right portion of the lane. Option number 2. Ride where the driver can see you in the rear view mirror. Option number 3. Ride in the left portion of the lane. The answer is option number 2. Ride where the driver can see you in the rear view mirror. Note: when behind a vehicle, ride where the driver can see you in his or her rear view mirror. If the traffic situation allows, the central lane position is usually the best place for you to be seen by the driver in his or her rear view mirror and to prevent other vehicles from sharing a lane. Question: to predict how a hazard may affect you, it's important to. Option number 1. Watch for brake lights or turn signals. Option number 2. Adjust speed to get around the hazard. Option number 3. Know the speed, distance and direction that the hazard is moving. The answer is option number 3. Know the speed, distance and direction that the hazard is moving. Note: to predict how a hazard may affect you, it is important to know the speed, distance and direction that the hazard may be moving. Think about how hazards can create risks for you. Anticipate potential problems and have a plan to reduce the risks.